online tutoring business masterclass. And that simple exercise is we walk through what is your ideal client feeling, thinking, hearing, seeing, doing. What are their dreams? What are their fears? You write all of that down so that you can begin to get inside of the head of your ideal client and what is most important to them. You use that information on your website so that the people that you want to talk to can hear you. I know a lot of tutors, they don't want to niche down. They are fearful that if they do that, then they are going to limit the amount of students that they can get. But usually the tutors that feel this way haven't gotten that many students to begin with. So they don't realize how that strategy is hurting them in the long run. The next thing a lot of tutors will do to show their expertise is they use big words. While, in the reading world, I understand what fluency and vocabulary and comprehension and phonemic awareness and all of these words are, a lot of times my ideal client doesn't. So if I can say that I can increase your child's phonemic awareness skills, that's all fantastic, but they have no idea what that means. And so that is not going to be words that are going to convince them to move forward with you. So using terms and words that your ideal client doesn't understand is not going to convince them to move forward with you. It's just going to leave them in a state of confusion instead of a state of clarity, okay? So one of the things that you want to make sure that you do is have somebody else read what you're writing, somebody who is not in your field, okay? And say, are there any words here that you don't understand the meaning of? Because a lot of times we don't know what other people don't know, right? So have somebody else read it. I began this activity all the way back when my oldest was actually in 4th grade. And I would have her read the stuff that I wrote. And I would say, okay, now tell me, which of these words do you not know the meaning of? Please circle them for me. Because the writing that we do needs to be written at a 4th, 5th, 6th grade reading level. We have high assumptions that the people that we are trying to connect with have college degrees or education, all of those kinds of things, right? And that's not always the case. And so you want to make sure if you're reaching on out to your ideal client that they actually are understanding the things that you are saying and trying to convey. Another big mistake that tutors will make is they won't have a clear call to action. A call to action is when people come to my website, what is the next step that I want them to take? And so when a tutor comes at this, they're like, okay, well, they could email me, they could call me, they can click this link here, they can contact me. There's all of these different things that they can do. But I want you to think about this. Think, what is one call to action if people were to land on your page you want them to take next? One mistake that tutors make is they don't realize that anybody can land on any one of your pages that you create for your website, okay? So if you do that, a lot of people do not understand that what this really means is that they might not know what your call to action is. We assume they're going to follow through on what we think the next call to action or the next step is. But they don't end up taking that because they landed on a different page. So what is your clear call to action? For me, it's to get a free assessment, right? And so if I am designing my website, let's say for my mobile device, I might say tap here to schedule a free assessment. Or on my website, I might put get a free assessment, and they just click there and they're able to take the next step to get a free assessment. You want to make sure that every piece of the process is clear and that people won't get confused or lost throughout the process. And the last big mistake, again, is not having chosen an ideal client. I didn't even realize I had already stated that one. So that was one of the big ones. So I'm going to come on in. Before I share what those 3 secrets are, I'm going to come and take a look here and see who is inside of the house so far. So we've got Magnolia Beauty. Welcome. So glad that you are here. Justine Forelli, who is in the San Francisco Bay Area that tutors reading online. Welcome. So glad that you are here. And we have Alicia from Trinidad and Tobago. So glad that you guys are here and joining us. Oh, and we've got Gloria Ingram as well. Yay! So glad that you guys are here. And Cynthia, yay! So glad you guys are here. And we're talking all about copywriting, not copyright. Again, the difference between that is copywriting, or the words that you use to persuade somebody to move forward with you and your services. A copyright is the legal information that you own what you are putting out there. And that is not what we're talking about today. Today, we're talking about copywriting. So let's move deep on into the different secrets that we have. And secret number one is to read books about copywriting. I know that a lot of you guys, you're educators, so you already love education to begin with, right? And the more that you know about copywriting, the more you are going to set yourself up for success. There's a great book all about copywriting secrets by Jim Edwards. Check that out. It is fantastic. I actually got to meet Jim Edwards at a conference back in October that I went to, and he shared some gold nuggets there. And inside of his book, he also shares some additional gold nuggets. Another great book is called Great Leads. It's the 6 easiest ways to start any sales message. And this takes a look at the different types of copy that have existed that have been effective. One of the mistakes that we make is we look at other tutors' websites and then we think, oh, that's what I need to include on my website. But we don't know if it's effective or not, right? We don't know if the words that they're using are effective. We don't know if the students and the parents are taking the next step because of the website that they designed. We just assume that since this other website exists and this is the information that they included, we should probably include similar information. But that is really misleading yourself. I have been diving deep into copywriting, you guys, for the last 12 years. And copywriting isn't something that you master overnight. Copywriting is something that you continue to refine in your understanding, which means then that on your website, you are constantly thinking about how can I refine what I have on my website so that people are taking the actions that I want them to take? How can I be clear on my website about what it is that I do, who I help, who my ideal clients are, so that I can speak in a way that's going to want to lead them through the very next step? Now, copywriting doesn't just happen on a website. It happens in ads. It even happens in the videos that you create, right? If you're writing down a script, the script that you're writing becomes the copywriting. So these are the words, again, that we use to have people choose us. Use to choose. Whoop, whoop. And there's another great book. It's called Words That Sell. So there are certain words that help people to take action or solicit and create an emotion. We've talked about this a lot, that people don't buy based off of logic. They buy based off of emotion, and they use logic to explain to other people why they bought. Now, this is why we think, right? This is why we have this misunderstanding that that people buy based off of logic, because when we hear why people bought, that's what they give us. They give us all of those like underlying deep thoughts, like, okay, and this is great because of this, and this is great because of this. And, you know, if somebody were to talk about like all the benefits of like online tutoring, you know, I don't have to drive in order to work with her, and it's going to be amazing. I'm so excited, right? But really, we have to tap on into those emotions. So definitely check out the book, Words That Sell. I frequently utilize this tool, flip through it, and I'm looking for, okay, well, how can I say this word better? Or how can I state this idea or this thought better? Now, when you read books, you're going to hear a lot of what's called AIDA. The A stands for attention. You want to grab people's attention right out of the gate. Next interest. You want to create interest as they read the copy that you write. And you want a desire that leads to an action. So you're going to hear ADA thrown around a lot when you start diving deep into copywriting. What is it? How do I go about it? How do I do it? And know that most of us are tutors, right? So we've never studied any of this kind of stuff before. This is a whole new territory for us. And that is okay if you're in that spot. Remember and give yourself grace in the stage that you're at when it comes to this skill. It is a skill that everyone can develop. It is not something that is just hidden out for the greatest of writers that are out there. In fact, great writers sometimes have no idea how to create great copy. They know how to write stories, but they might not know how to create great copy that's going to sell their stories. So this is definitely a skill that when you learn this skill, it's going to change your life. It changes the images that you create and use, let's say for Instagram, or even if you're going to create a buy, sell, trade ad, right? You're using those words that are really going to capture the attention of your ideal client, which will then create an interest in what you do, a desire to move forward, and then they will take action. That is the goal. So keep it up, you guys. You're going to learn and learn and learn as you go, and this is a never-ending process. Secret number 2, you want to lead with the benefits instead of leading with the features. You want to lead with benefits, validate features. Okay, so here's what I see a lot of tutors writing on their website. They'll say 20 plus years experience. 20 plus years experience. Well, yeah, we can see that as valuable, right? As teachers, like, oh, okay, great. 20 plus years of experience. But now let me turn that around into a benefit. Like, what will the 20 plus years mean to that ideal client? So an example is, after teaching for 20 plus years, I can help students recognize the mistakes that they are making and word problems and help them figure out the right answer more frequently. Wow, so much better than just 20 years experience, right? How does that experience benefit your ideal client? Now, I was writing that specific piece for a math tutor, right? And I know one of the things that kids really, really struggle with the most are those word problems. And guess what? That's what the parents communicate with me as well. They'll tell me that their child really struggles with word problems. They don't know really how to go about them, right? But when I say that and I tap into, okay, here's one of the things that they struggle with, and I'm able to be able to notice where the mistake is happening, guide the student so that they don't make that mistake anymore. Now, all of a sudden, those words mean something. So you always want to think about what is the benefit and what is the feature, right? So a benefit is, everybody, when they look at your website, they're looking at it from this point of view. What's in it for me? And if that doesn't get answered by your website, they're going to move on, right? This is why I constantly am telling tutors, create a video for your website. A lot of us can speak these things a lot easier than we can write them in the beginning. So why not speak it out loud to them and tell them, elicit those emotions. Tell them how, others who have worked with you have benefited, right? And that will be amazing for them. And secret number 3, are you guys ready? I'm curious if anybody can guess what secret number 3 is. Probably not. I mean, a lot of us are new when it comes to the copywriting thing. But secret number 3 is actually storytelling. And one of the problems that a lot of us have as tutors is we don't think about our own stories that can help explain to people why we would be a good fit. So storytelling is absolutely huge. People will pay attention to a story, right? We can follow along with a story as long as we have the main features of a story. And those main features, we need to have characters that are relatable and likable. We need to create a conflict. And then we need to have some kind of a resolution. How did it end? You don't want to leave people hanging on how the story ends. Now, we can tell stories from our own point of view, and we can also tell stories from our students that we work with, their point of view, and kind of build out what do those stories sound like. So I'm going to show you two types of stories where I tell my story, and I'm going to then move on to a story that I told of one of my clients and the successes that they had. Now, this is different than a testimonial, right? Because a testimonial is relatively short, right? It's not this like long copy story that you're going to follow along with. But let me show you real quick. I'm going to share my screen with you guys so that you can see. Let's come on over here. This is on the very front page of one of my websites. I put, for me, your child's reading development is personal. As a struggling reader up until high school, I personally felt that all of the other kids were smarter than me. My reading intervention didn't start until I was in 6th grade after scoring poorly on a state test. Read my story. Is this call to action make you want to click to read the rest of the story? Yeah, so I didn't share too much on my opening page, but it's enough to kind of entice people to click there and be like, oh, I wonder what the rest of our story is, right? And now you have buy-in. I got their attention, right? So that I could now take that next step and create that interest so that they click. So here I share how I was a struggling reader up until high school. And I write, I never intended to struggle, and I underlined it. So some different things that we can do when we are writing copy is we can actually underline, bold, capitalize. So here I capitalized all the letters here. I'm trying to bring them down to the next sentence. So here I put, I really wanted to learn to read. I mean, when I was 5, I asked everyone I knew to teach me, but they told me that I would learn in school. And when I started school, I was placed in the lowest reading group. Let me just tell you, everyone knows when they're in the lowest reading group. And this was not a great way for me to start off my reading. I felt like I was dumb. While I was reading The Little Train That Could, all the other kids were reading chapter books. Now, this is something that I've realized when working with my clients. All of the kids that I work with, a lot of them want to be able to read chapter books like all the other kids. And so here I am saying, like, look, I experienced that too, right? And I'm connecting with the pain points that they have, that their child can't read in these chapter books yet. I wanted to be like everyone else, but when I held a chapter book, I became overwhelmed by all the words that I didn't know how to read. And sometimes kids didn't want to play with me because I was a slow kid. Kids can be mean sometimes, am I right? So here I'm kind of connecting with them. I loved school, but thought I was dumb. So here I have something that really brings people on in. This is called a heading 2. And the heading 2 here will continue people to want to read to the next section. You'll notice here I have used italics, again, like my big secret, right? It stands on out when you see it. And this really captures the eye of the reader to want to keep reading. And then I share my experience with the state test. There isn't a parent alive today who hasn't heard about the state tests that their state does, right? So what was my experience with that? I share that here, and how I was then denied taking a Spanish class. And it's still happening today. I still hear parents say, yeah, they're not allowed to take this because they have to be pulled out for a special reading class. They need to take reading intervention during Spanish time, and so they can't take that. And I've used some different images here to continue to bring them on. You'll notice I have lots of white space. White space makes it easier on the eyes for people to read. And then I share the next chapter of my life. I start sharing the solution and what happened for me. And then as I get towards the end, I share here what was my success story, right? Like, what was the success that I had? So I was accepted at Marquette University in Milwaukee. I graduated summa cum laude. When I graduated with my master's as a reading specialist, I did so with a 4.0, something I never thought I would be capable of. And I think that this is really important because it's saying, like, look, okay, I overcame the problem that I had. Now, I didn't just write on there, I have a master's as a reading specialist. It shares my story in context for this particular, thing that I tutor. I became interested in helping kids. And here I put passion for helping kids today. Why am I passionate about helping kids today? I'm passionate because as a classroom teacher, I fell in love with teaching reading, and I share the experience of my students now. So 30%. Now, I'm also adding some images that really bring on in my credibility, right? I say that I taught at the Milwaukee Academy of Science, but notice how I added this image here, right? Images speak words and volumes. Now, these kids are way above the age. There's nobody who is going to be able to do any kind of face identification on them. They're all in their 20s now. So, so you don't have to worry. Like in this particular case, I don't have to worry about, harming any identity of any children because they are no longer children. They have changed significantly. If they were a child that could be easily identified, I would need to get permission from a parent in order to publish that. And then here, I share my success that I've had with some of my students. And this is also a story that I have shared on my website for people to check on out. But here I've shared the success that I had with my own reading, how I became passionate about teaching kids to read, and now moving forward. Do you notice how this really makes me stand out? This storytelling practice of really creating something that makes me different than a lot of the other tutors that are out there and teaching reading, right? I'm not scared to share the story. I'm using my story as a hero story, and the hero story is one of the storytelling types that you can use to really make a difference. Let me share with you real quick on my online reading tutor. I've showcased one of my students' stories, and this is Ruby, and this is a real picture of Ruby on the first day of school of first grade, right? And then we go on and I share the story, like how did Ruby's mom reach out to me? What was happening in this particular situation? What was happening for them? I'm really building in the emotions, right? Like how Mandy was frustrated because they pretty much said that Ruby was at the bottom 25% of her class. She was going to have to do summer school, and mom was going to have to read with her more at home, and and Mandy was frustrated because they waited until the end of the year to tell her that her daughter needed help with reading. How many of our parents are in the same situation, right? And so this helps identify exactly where other people would be reading this story. And so I share, how she began looking for a solution on the internet, and she ended up finding me. And then she suggested that, I suggested that we do a free assessment to find out what's going on with Ruby. And then we were able to close the gap in 3 short months of her working with me. She went from the bottom of her class in first grade to the top of her class starting in second grade. And this is really a picture of Ruby going into second grade. She was enthusiastic and excited. And what parent doesn't want to feel that way or have their child feel that way when it comes to going to school, right? And so I share that, wait, this is even long lasting. This isn't something that ends, right? And I shared here, 5 years ago, why would I be telling, this story today? Well, these results are long lasting. In fact, just a couple of weeks ago, Ruby's mom sent me this message. And this is a real message here from Ruby's mom. This is also Ruby's mom too. And it says, guess who was invited to take honors English next year? You're Ruby. You set that girl up for a lifetime of success. So it ends, again, the resolution, what happened for her over a long period of time. It doesn't leave the audience waiting and wondering, what in the world do I write about, right? Like, how did that story end? I am very clear about that. And so storytelling is this really big piece that gets people sucked on in to your world. And they're like, yeah, I want to be a part of that, right? I want to have those successes. I want to feel like that, which is why over the next 8 weeks, I'm going to be guiding a group of tutors. Now, if you're already in my Insider Secrets Club, you already get access to this. Woo woo. What we're going to be doing is we're going to identify and what are the top storytelling types that exist. We're going to be taking your story and actually writing your story so that you can be guided in this process, get feedback from other people, and tell these incredible stories that are going to suck people into your world and want to hire you. And that is the big goal. So Beth is going to put a link. If you're not in our Insider Secrets Club and you want to join us for 8 weeks of how do I tell stories and how do I write this copy better so that people want to move forward with me, click the link that she puts on in there. Now, typically when people take a course with me, it's like a 4-week course. We're going to be really diving on into this for 8 weeks. You're going to get live Zoom calls where I'm going to be able to support you. I'm going to be able to answer your questions and guide you through the process. This is a course that I had conducted years ago, and people were requesting it over and over again. They're like, Joanne, I'd really love for you to be able to teach this course again. So I'm going to be diving deep on into teaching this course live for you guys so that you can come on in and join me, ask questions, be a part of the process, and begin to refine and write your story so that people want to move forward with you. And you know what happens when you do this? People stop judging you based off of how much you charge. And I think this is one of the most key pieces. People feel like they know you when they get on the very first call with you and they're ready to move forward. And this is huge. So if you are ready to join us for the Copywriting Secrets, you can go into the link down below. If you're on YouTube, if you go to the description, I have a link right there for you that you can click on. Beth has put a link inside of the Facebook group for those of you joining on Facebook, and you can click right there. So awesome, you guys. I'm so glad that you joined us today. It is time to tell your story. Time to write the copy that is going to make people start looking at you for the amazing person that you are and what you've been able to overcome and what you've been able to help other students be able to do so that they want to hire you. They don't care about how much it is that you charge. They just want to get those results. So thanks for joining me today, you